Hi, this is Michael, and welcome to Salty Well, Episode 7. So, today I want to talk about how do you even navigate the market with Flesh and Blood. This probably applies to other TCGs or whatnot, but this is solely how I focus on Flesh and Blood, and there's quite a bit of learning experience to it when you first get in. I did not become a major collector until May 2020, so there's a big learning process for me. And there wasn't really much out there to learn by. I just kind of learned it as I went along. So I thought I'd share my experience, how I learned how to navigate the market, and also what I do now that I've already learned the market pretty well. So there are several marketplaces where you could look up prices of cards, buy cards, sell cards, or whatnot. So the major ones that I use is you have eBay, of course, TCG Player, you got game stores, local and online, you got the Facebook Marketplace, auction page, and Discord. Each of these have pros and cons, but it's good to navigate all those different markets, especially when you're buying really expensive cards. Last year, when I got into Flesh and Blood, it was a very volatile market. Prices kept going up, so you had to watch every single market almost every day to keep up with what to buy, what to sell, where to sell it, and whatnot. And there's different benefits of each of these marketplaces. I'll try to go into more of that. So, how do you know what price to sell or buy? Well, there are channels that give you EV updates or whatnot, which are a good reference point. But if you're looking for an individual card and you want to do your due diligence on it, you gotta look at, is the card graded? Is it near mint? Is it lightly played? Whatnot. And what I usually do is if I'm looking for a graded card, I'll look what prices are potentially on Facebook. I'll go to eBay and I'll look up the card, whatnot. So like a first edition, Brayford's Bracers, I'll look up last sold. And you might not always find those cards right there, especially now, but those are good things to look up. And if I'm just looking up a card that's not graded, I usually go to TCG Player and I look at most recently sold prices. I will make a separate video in the future showing you how to change the filters or whatnot in TCG Player to look up cold foil, first edition, whatnot. It's really confusing, but if you do the right filters, you can see the cards that sold and prices and whatnot. And that's a really good reference point. Now, again, if you're buying and selling a lot of lower priced cards or whatnot, you just manage your inventory on TCG Player or look up the prices on there. But if you're selling really expensive cards, make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you look up the exact same card, too. For example, you have first edition, you have unlimited, as well as non-foil, rainbow foil, cold foil, extended art, and alter art variants. That's a lot to keep track of. So if you're selling something, make sure you're doing it right. Also, if you're selling a first edition, especially the first 2-3 sets, WTR, ARC, and CRU, do your due diligence. Make sure you're selling the right price. I've seen people on Facebook sell cards a few $100s less than what they're worth because they're like, "Oh, I saw a price for $50 online. I'm going to sell that." Do your due diligence. Don't just sell a card for cheap unless you know it's that price. To check out prices on eBay, a really good tool is 130point.com. I'll include the links to these websites in the description below the podcast. But 130point.com, it shows you the true sold price from eBay. So it's a really good source to find out the prices of cards. Selling on Facebook and direct sales is a really good way to cut out the middleman, such as eBay and TCG Player prices, but it requires trust. So what I find is easiest, which is non-social whatsoever, you're not going to build up much credibility by doing it, is it's easier to just put cards on eBay or TCG Player. eBay takes a little bit more work because you got to put pictures and fill out all these different fields, but I find that better if you're going to sell graded cards or cases or whatnot, especially if you're selling to international audiences. Same thing if you're shopping for cards too. eBay lets you look at the international audiences too. But right now I'm mainly focusing on the North America market for this podcast. TCG Player is the easiest way to list your cards. You don't need to take pictures, and it gets integrated website. But if you don't have a near mint card, don't be a dick. put it as lightly played or moderately played. I bought some cards recently, and they were marked as near mint, and they definitely were not. Again, a few nicks or whatnot, still near mint. That's how they come out of packs. Doesn't mean to be perfectly gradable. Make sure you mark it correctly, especially when you're not putting pictures online. So that's the benefit of eBay, though. It's easier to message the buyer, the seller or buyer or whatnot, if you're trying to find out more details about the quality of the card. eBay, I find it easiest to find a card that's already listed and use it as a boilerplate. And again, as mentioned, you have access to an international audience, and selling higher end cards, I think, is more beneficial on there compared to the TCG player. Now, personal sales is what I did most of in the beginning when collecting Flesh and Blood. I would buy a lot on Facebook, Discord. This is not a place I really recommend, but the first card I bought a heart on was, I think, Reddit. But Facebook is the primary market. Again, I'll put the links on there where to navigate to. But North American marketplace is a really good place to find cards to buy and sell. Again, typical rule of thumbs like 10-15% TCG player low is what people usually post on there. And you can make want to buy posts there too. Same thing with Discord. If you're selling locally as well, I started the Flesh and Blood Seattle group. So we have a buy sell channel there too. So whatever area you're at, try to find a local Flesh and Blood group. So you got Seattle, you got Vegas, you probably have Colorado, Los Angeles, lots of other places too. So you can buy and sell locally too. That way, if you don't want to ship, you could worry about dealing with the locals. And plus, it's nice meeting the people you're selling to. That's how you meet a lot of people and gain credibility in the community, is just transactions or whatnot. Typically, you use PayPal. You got goods and services, and you have friends and family. If you know the person, use friends and family. Highly recommend that. You guys don't get charged for it. Again, I'm not going to go into the nuances of taxes or whatnot or PayPal avoidance. But friends and family is what I recommend for in-person transactions, or if you know the person. And if you don't know the person, that's where credibility comes into place. But nonetheless, though, if you're risk adverse and don't mind paying an extra 3% fee, use goods and services. Sometimes as a seller, you could ask to add the extra fee onto it, so that way the buyer pays the extra 3%. Or sometimes you just include that in your price. That's where the negotiation aspect comes into place. But the trust aspect is really important. I've talked about it before in this podcast, and I think that's the most important part of any personal sales. eBay, as I mentioned, and TCG Player is very indirect. You build up your credibility, you get stars or whatnot, you get, some people leave you feedback or whatnot, but usually don't interact with the buyer or seller that much. You usually get your cards, you send a thank you, good job, thanks for giving me the card. If it sucks, you leave negative feedback. It happens, but you try to avoid that and whatnot. But on Facebook, there's a Flesh and Blood Facebook North American reference page. I'll give you a link on that too. But a friend, Dan, helped start that last year when we got the group going, because you really need to have a reference page to know who you're buying and selling to. Especially when you get into like these really expensive transactions, you got to have some credibility. So I'll send you a link to mine. Nothing fancy, but again, you make a post on the North American page, and you could even click on the timestamp or whatnot, and you get your unique link for it. And you can share that unique link for people to leave you references after you do a transaction. Either selling or buying. You say, hey, if you like the card or whatnot, please leave me a reference. You make enough of these sales, you get the credibility, plus you're meeting people in the community, you help build your trust or whatnot. Again, you could lose your trust too, so take advantage for it. You want to make sure you build your trust, maintain your trust. That's a really important part of collectibles. And then buying and selling helps build your name recognition in the community, as I was saying. And by doing that, sometimes people will start reaching out to you to want to sell stuff, because they're like, if you buy and sell a lot, they're like, hey, I know I saw you buying these super rares first edition. Hey, I have a few extra ones. Hey, do you want them? So sometimes people will see you buying and selling in the community, and maybe you bought from their friend or whatnot, and then you'll also get, more potential buying opportunities as well. So trust is really important. Make sure you don't take it for granted, and try to keep building up as you go along. And another thing that gets to me quite a bit is etiquette. Now, when you're buying and selling, especially personal sales, even eBay and TCG Player, if someone in reference reaches out to you or not, you should respond, especially if you sold it and not shipped it. Sometimes people will buy from you, and TCG Player, you might have forgotten to turn off your store while you're gone on a trip. Either reach out to the buyer and say, I'm going to be late, or cancel and refund the transaction. You shouldn't not avoid communication at that point, because you're going to piss off the person who bought it. They're not going to get the card. They might need it for a tournament or whatnot. So maintain communication before and after the sale. Don't ghost someone. That's not cool. Now, pack your cards nicely. That sounds like a simple thing to say, but again, I don't usually sell cheaper cards or whatnot. But pack your cards nicely. You want to use a penny sleeve, top loader, bubble mailer, whatnot. I'll make another video showing how I pack things. Nothing fancy or whatnot. But if you're going to put tape on top of the top loader and use a penny sleeve, make sure to put at least a piece of paper in between the top loader and the penny sleeve on top, wrapping around it, or else you risk the card coming out of the penny sleeve and hitting the tape, and that could completely damage the card. You want to avoid that. Now, if the card is $500 plus, you're going to want to talk to the person how you want to ship it or whatnot. But I usually use the penny sleeve, top loader, bubble mailer, and then I just toss that into a small flat rate box from USPS, and that really keeps the card very well protected. And that makes sure that the person gets it, knows you took care of it, you're trustworthy, you care about the quality of the card or not, and you making sure that the card is the same quality as when they bought it. Now, sometimes people want a lot of pictures. That's fine. Send it to them. If you're doing a really expensive transaction, be very transparent. Now, if the card's $10 and someone's asking for a lot of pictures, maybe that's not the person you want to sell to. But if you're selling a card, let's say $500, $1,000, whatnot, you might not necessarily have the gradable card, but somebody's probably trying to look for a better card, so you can get those pictures. And if somebody's asking for a really high quality, super high gradable card, again, if you don't grade, you don't know. But you might be able to charge a little extra if someone's asking for all these extra pictures or whatnot. So keep that in mind. But don't go saying you have the perfect card, reach out to someone, and try to ask for a lot of money. Now, get it graded if you think it's perfect. But don't ask for the graded cost that way. Don't be a dick. It's a common statement right there. People who bully people in transactions get really negative feedback online. I see this. Luckily, I've never dealt with the bullies online, but I see people post on the reference page that people are saying, oh, you're too expensive, and try to talk the price down or whatnot. If someone doesn't want to sell for you the price, back off. You got a card, put your price, sell it. Now, if you're going to post something on a Facebook group, don't post it for above marketplace price, because that's not a place where you sit and wait on it. If you're going to sell a card that's higher than current market because you think it's going to go up, say, for example, Arcane Rising Unlimited went out of print. You got WTR Unlimited out of print. So you might think the card's going to go up in price. And if you want to put it on eBay and TCG Player, put it whatever price you want, sit on it, wait on it. Don't be upset if no one buys it. But if you start pricing it that way and put it on Facebook, you're going to look like you don't know what you're talking about. So there's different ways you should post your cards. So if you post it on Facebook, you probably should post at market price. Sometimes people post gold foil legendaries at like $10,000, $20,000 when the last sold price is $4,000. You don't look like you have any credibility. You lose trust from people in the community when you do something like that. If you have a mutual friend who vouches for you and you're doing a transaction, so for example, maybe you don't know the person and someone's like, hey, I had this other friend who has this card. Let me get to do. If you have someone vouch for you, trust the conversation. Don't be skittish, right? You gotta trust your friends. So if your friend introduces you to someone, don't come in there and saying, hey, better not be ripping me off or whatnot. That's not cool. If you don't trust the person you're doing a transaction with, don't bother doing a transaction. Just back out. Don't do it. It's not your place. So if you have friends, trust them. Now, if you're extremely skittish people, which there are out there, maybe you don't have any credibility yet. Maybe your niche community don't have a reference page. Maybe you haven't sold much on eBay. And let's say you pulled a Fable out of set and you want to sell it for $500. You might want to either do goods and services as mentioned before, or you use a third-party representative. for example, is I've had people mail me cards before, and I verified from both parties, like, yep, that's a card. Yep, you got it. And then I mailed it out to other transactions. Stores do this. You might want to reach out to people in your community. Now, if you don't trust something, you can reach out to a third party person to help do this for you, or you can just use good services and do that, or just build your trust up as you go along, or whatnot. It's not easy to do. Again, I got into Flesh and Blood kind of early, so I built up my trust by doing a lot of buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling. But as we get more and more people in the community, you want to build up your trust. And sometimes you get these really big hits. Or maybe you sign up for unsales and you're like, I'm going to spend $150 on alpha. And Chris pulls you fucking heart, right? That's a $20,000, $40,000 card, depending on the quality. You're like, okay, now I want to sell it. And you have no credibility. You maybe use him as a third party transaction or look at your options. But if you have no credibility, you might want to use a third party to help you sell stuff. And last thing on etiquette I'm going to talk about right now, I'll probably have more in the future, but don't snipe people's buy post or sales post. If you want something, make your own post on Facebook. Like if someone says, I want to buy this legendary unlimited card for $100, then someone comments in the post like, hey, I'm paying $150. That person's a dick. So you shouldn't do that or comment on people's posts. Or if you're trying to sell something and someone comments on it and saying, hey, that card's way more than it should be. But if you're selling like a first edition WTR or Arcane Rising, there's no set price out there. Prices are volatile. They change over time. So commenting because you don't like someone else's price on it or sell posts or whatnot, you should not be there. So again, I'm going to post some of these links in the description below. And I'll probably make a video at a later time showing how to use these different tools and search for cards. But again, there's always a learning process. There's always new things going on, new sets coming out. And you want to learn about the cards. And again, I'm going to say at the end, join a local community. Meet the people around you. Gain trust from people locals. Gain trust from people in the Facebook groups. And if you have eBay and TCG Player, just make sure you do transactions nicely. Communicate very well. Package your stuff well. And you'll build credibility as you go along. So everyone, thanks for listening.